Hello, and welcome to the debut episode of On the Line. I'm Karl Richter. This week I'll be talking with Texarkana financial advisor and award-winning podcaster Joe Saul-Sehy. We discussed his show, his forthcoming book, and what he loves about his adopted hometown. But first, here's a look at some of the week's news. The Miller County Quorum Court is considering plans to expand the county's jail. Quorum Court members recently met with a Tennessee-based architect to discuss adding room for 100 more inmates. Along with upgrades to electronic security systems, the expansion likely would cost $6.5 million to $7.5 million. The Quorum Court plans to seek public support in the form of an election to add a quarter-cent sales tax in the county. Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson will visit Texarkana on Thursday, July 15th. The stop will be one among several in Arkansas cities to hold what the governor's office is calling community COVID conversations. A recent dramatic increase in the number of new COVID-19 cases in Arkansas, as well as the state's low vaccination rate, prompted the tour. Hutchinson will speak at 6 p.m. Thursday at the Texarkana, Arkansas Convention Center. The event is open to the public. Local nonprofit Texarkana Resources on July 8th debuted its new Adult Development Training Program Center. The $280,000 building will be used to train adults with disabilities in work and life skills. The facility was sorely needed, Texarkana Resources CEO Jennifer Lewis said. A new class of trainees began using the building Monday. An Ashdown, Arkansas man has been arrested in connection with a July 4th shooting in Miller County. Neil Williams Jr., 19, was taken into custody at his residence on July 8th by the Ashdown Police Department. Williams is accused of firing multiple shots from a handgun into a residence in the 100 block of Miller County Road 139. No one was injured in the incident. Williams has been charged with 7 counts of felony aggravated assault and 11 counts of felony terroristic act. On July 7th at the Texarkana Public Library, local kids got an up-close look at a fire engine. The Texarkana, Texas Fire Department showed off the truck as part of the library's Big Rig Takeover program. Children got to sound the truck's horn and siren, raise its ladder, and ask firefighters about their work. The Big Rig Takeover continues Wednesday at the library with a visit from a LifeNet ambulance. After a break, this week's interview. Subscribe today to the Texarkana Gazette and you'll get an Apple iPad to use at no charge, plus a Sunday paper delivered to your home. Every day you'll get an electronic version of the Gazette downloaded directly to your iPad. It's the ultimate home delivery. No more waiting, wet papers, or going out into the cold. And everything you want, the latest news, puzzles, and coupons, is right there. You can zoom in to make articles easier to read, or have the iPad read them to you aloud. Enjoy full-color photo galleries and embedded video content, and access the Gazette's archives back to 2002. For only $29.99 a month, it's a great deal. Call 870-648-1209. That's 870-648-1209 to subscribe to the Texarkana Gazette today. When I was thinking about who I wanted to be my first guest, Texarkana's most successful podcaster quickly came to mind. Joe Saul-Sehy is the creator of The Stacking Benjamin Show, a podcast he started in Texarkana a decade ago. Broadly speaking, it's about money management, but don't expect boring lectures. Joe, his co-host, and guests talk about serious stuff with a light touch and have lots of laughs along the way. And people have responded. Among other honors, the Stacking Benjamins show has won the Academy of Podcasters' Best Business Podcast Award, beating big names like NPR's How I Built This, Gimlet's Startup, and The Tim Ferriss Show. Joe was a financial planner for 16 years in Detroit, and for 9 years he was the money man for Detroit's ABC affiliate, WXYZ. He was also a spokesman for American Express and Ameriprise, one of 12 experts who spoke with major media on behalf of the company. Today you'll find Joe's advice and guidance at Forbes, CNBC, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times. To top it all off, his book, Stacked, Your Super Serious Guide to Modern Money Management, is due from Penguin Random House on December 28th. But the main reason I invited him here is that he and his wife, Cheryl, have adopted Texarkana as their home. Joe serves on the board of Partnership for the Pathway, the local nonprofit that raises funds for recreational trails. And he also volunteers with the Texarkana Museum System, helping to organize movie nights on the lawn of the Ace of Clubs house. Here's my conversation with Joe Saul-Sehy. Hi, Joe. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you were my first choice, and I'm really glad you had the time to do this for me.
I am incredibly honored, and as a guy who is known for podcasting out of mom's basement, this is way professional, like way professional.
Well, we're trying. So take me back. What was it like when you recorded your first podcast episode? What do you remember about it?
The thing I remember most now, afterwards, that I didn't know at the time, was that I couldn't get the level up. Like, I'm interviewing people, and it took me forever to figure out how to interview people that weren't in the room with me, which I thought I was going to have to do because it's a finance show.
Right.
And I knew all these people from the internet. But to get that hooked up so that I could get Skype coming in, like Zoom, right, coming in, and make it so that I could record them and me, but I couldn't get it loud enough. I could not get it loud enough. I tried and tried to get it louder, and I couldn't. And you know what I found out?
What's that?
I was talking to the wrong side of the microphone. There's this microphone called a Yeti, and a lot of people get it. And you don't realize that, like, these microphones, you talk out of the end of the head. Mm-hmm. This one, you talk into the side.
Oh,
and
wow.
Somebody finally, like a week and a half later, goes, "You know your problem." I'm like, "No, why?" They're like, "You're talking to the wrong part." So that's what I remember most, is how little I knew what the hell I was doing.
Well, hopefully I won't blunder like that. But this is all new. So how has the show evolved over the years? What's changed since those early days?
Well, we have embraced the comedy in the show more. You know, just to give people that don't know the show a little idea, I have been in media for American Express and Ameriprise. I was one of 12 people in the nation that spoke on behalf of them as an industry expert, but I was doing media, but I was also working as a financial planner. But when I began the show, I've been told over and over again that I should have a podcast. I've been on the radio, I've been on TV, mm-hmm. and people said, "Hey, this is this new thing, podcasting. You should totally do it." And I said, I don't have anything to say that Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman aren't saying. Like, what am I going to say? And I don't want to yell at people about their money. Like, no offense to Dave and Susie, not what I want to do. And then one day I was mowing my lawn, and I was listening to this show, Car Talk, and NPR, these guys Click and Clack, and they totally, completely gave me this idea, because if you've ever listened to Car Talk, you don't learn anything about a car. Like, you learn nothing about it, but you have so much fun not learning about a car and being enveloped in it. And I thought, wow, what if there was this thing about money? So I'm, just here north of the highway mowing my lawn one day, and I'm listening to Car Talk, and I'm like, holy cow, I've got this idea. And but we want to be taken seriously. So what's evolved mostly is when we first started out, we had a few inside jokes, like it's live from Mom's basement. Of course, we don't have many basements here, right? So that was for us. Plus, podcasting, every podcaster they're not like here. Most podcasters are in Mom's basement, and they're trying to pretend like they're not.
Right.
So we just decided we would embrace the basement. And it was differentiation and a sense of place. But we had that. But besides that, the show was super serious. And what I realized was that, people listen for stories and they listen for fun. And even though you want to make some great points, people want to come away with this feeling that they had a good time. And so we were two guys that knew a lot about money, and we thought we were kind of funny. Mm-hmm. And we began getting these reviews. And a lot of the changes in the show are because of the reviews that we got. Paying attention to reviews, I think, has been huge for us. But one was, you guys aren't as funny as you think you are. Like 1 star.
Oh, wow.
You're nowhere near as funny as you think you are. And you know what? They were right, because I'd studied money for a long time and knew a lot about that. I never really studied comedy. And here I am making a podcast that the whole world can listen to, and I have never once paid attention to that piece of the craft. So we began taking comedy classes. We continually are paying attention to comedians and techniques and things that they do to try to keep that edge, and also storytellers and how people tell a good story. So all the non-finance stuff is really, over the decade we've done it, that's the piece that's changed.
It's quite a logistical challenge to record this, right? You're recording it from multiple locations all over the country, isn't that right? It
is, what's funny is it is, but it's not the logistical challenge that I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. It's much like riding a bike. Once you know what's going on, you just tell your guest, hey, meet me here online. And then once I've got all the wires in the right place and it's all hooked up, I'll tell you, if you're thinking about getting into podcasting, really, if you think about getting into anything, don't let the little things be the barrier, because I let a year go by from the time that I had that idea mowing my lawn to the time that we actually launched the podcast. And you know what was really in my way, Karl? The thing that was really in my way was I couldn't figure out how we get from you and I sitting here to some satellite in outer space, the way I thought about it, to the device where you listen. And I've been listening to podcasts, and I was like, I don't know how to get my voice into that little iPod or whatever device people are using. And it was mostly iPods back then. But it turns out that's the easiest thing.
Right.
There are these companies that handle all that for you. But I waited a year. And if I had anything that I would do over again, I would not wait so long. I would have started earlier. Just made the mistake. You're going to make tons of mistakes at whatever you do. Make them early. Get them out of the way.
Right. So you come at this line of work from some personal experience, right? So tell us your personal money story.
Oh, my personal money story is a complete mess. Like a lot of people's, actually. When I was a kid, I was in, your average family where you'd walk into the room and mom and dad, if they're having a conversation about money, you were asked to leave. We never talked about money in front of, my parents never talked about money in front of my sister, my brother, or I. So, and I was never really trusted with money. When I was a kid, my parents would always direct what I did. Sure, they'd send me out with a few bucks, but never. I was never trusted with enough that I could make a decision that mattered until I got to college. And I went to the Citadel, the military college of South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
At that time, it was all men. And I get there, and the very first week, our student union called Mark Clark Hall. I walk in there, man, and there is a line. And I ask people what the line's for, and you can sign up to get an American Express card. And I don't remember if it was a beach towel or a Frisbee or something, but I was going to go get one of those. So I stand in this line, and I apply for the card. Now, I'm at a military college. I can't have a job, right?
Right.
Because even on weekends we're marching. I'm wearing a uniform all the time. I have no income, no way to pay the bill. American Express 2 weeks later sends me a credit card. You're good, man. And the first time we got leave, I go to North Charleston with a bunch of my friends, and we go to this really high-end restaurant that people may have heard of called Ruby Tuesday.
Right.
They had a salad bar. It was amazing. And we get done with the meal, and I remember the bill comes, and I'm going to be the big man on campus because I got my new green card. And I said, guys, I got this. And I'm everybody's favorite person, right? As I slapped that card down, and it was amazing.
You're bringing back memories. I went through sort of a similar thing.
I go to the other end of the mall afterwards with this great feeling, and on this mannequin, I see this amazing sweater, which, by the way, is, and it's 1988, so it is Duran Duran amazing. Like, it's got this paisley design on the top, and it's this bright purple color. I still have it to remember just how idiotic this was. And so I buy the sweater. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. What the heck do I need a sweater for? It's like, what do I need a sweater for in July in Texarkana, right? Same thing. And so I buy it though, and it's awesome. And I take it back to my room, and you hide it like you hide all your civilian clothing when you're at a military college. And a month later, something weird happened. This bill shows up. Like, what the heck is this? I got to pay the bill. And I did what any smart person would do. I called my mom.
Right.
And I said, hey, Mom. And Mom changed my life that day. She said something that was horrible and fantastic. I said, Mom, we've got a problem. And she said, no, you have a problem, and you have to figure it out. Oh, wow. Now, once again, being in a military college, I wasn't going to be able to figure it out. So my first credit card, American Express, was taken away from me 2 months later. I worked the whole next summer with a collection agency to pay it off. My credit was ruined immediately, and I had this hole that I had to dig out of. And what's funny is later on when I became a financial planner, it is very ironic that I got to speak on behalf of American Express. And I don't think that they did very good due diligence choosing me. I'm like, I had the card taken away, and now I'm speaking on behalf of you. But by that time, I'd really cleaned up my act. And but when I speak to people and I was able to meet with people one-on-one, it turns out I'm not the only one. Like, I think it's because everybody's family's like mine. Nobody talks about this. We're all making the same mistakes.
So you've been thinking about people and money for a long time. What have you learned about human psychology from doing this kind of thing? What sort of insights do you have into people?
I think we think that money is harder than it is. I think we think that for a lot of us, we think that building wealth, that there's something not great about that. There's something greedy about it. There's something me about it. I think that. I also think that people that are great with money have some gene. And I'll tell you, it is none of that. You can be a more productive member of your local community if you handle money decently. You don't got to be a rocket scientist, but if you handle it decently, you can think about other things and about other people and not about how the bills are going to get paid tomorrow. And certainly, by the way, listen, I was in this position. There's a time when you just have to think about how the bills are getting paid tomorrow, and that's okay. But if you build some basic systems, and there's one in particular that won the day for me that people don't realize, and that's to automate it. Yeah. If you can spend your time making the $100 decisions and not making the $1 decisions, like automate as many of those $1 decisions as possible. And I'll give you an example. People would tell me, they're like, I can't save. And I would ask them, do you have a 401k at work? You have a retirement plan at work? And they go, well, yeah. Have you saved any money there? Yeah, I've saved $5,000 there. How did you do that? You hid money from yourself. And so for me, I'm the biggest spender on earth still. I have not changed from that kid in North Charleston at that mall. I'm still that person. You know what I do? I don't carry any money. Because I know that if I carry money, it is going to be gone by the time I head back up state line, dude.
Right.
It is gone. There's a board game store on the left-hand side of the road, Excalibur Games. I will stop there. I will buy something for $60 that I do not need.
So you don't have superhuman self-discipline?
I do not. But that's the thing. You don't want it to need self-discipline. You want to just build this automated thing that automatically creates wins. So, and also stops you from blowing yourself up. So it is far more behavioral than we think it is.
Is anyone beyond help, or can anyone who struggles with their relationship with money get over that?
Anybody can get there. And I get that there are people that struggle keeping a job. There are people that struggle with illness or medical issues. You know, I've seen that. But even then, there are negotiation techniques that are part of managing money. We've had some great guests on our show talking about negotiating some of those things. And also, I think it's about your state of mind. I think that, and I feel like a lot of the discussions, boy, this could go off the rails really quick, but I feel like a lot of the discussions that we have on Facebook that you'll see or on social media, people get into these, I don't even know if they're discussions as much as they're just people yelling at each other. You know, right. I've got this opinion and somebody says, well, I think you're wrong. And we get into this, no, I'm not wrong. How can I be wrong? And I feel like more and more we live our life as if we don't want to be wrong. And instead, what I've learned from some very smart people that I've had the honor of interviewing is that if you adopt this growth mindset of, you know what, I probably am wrong. If you just give that up and you say, I probably am wrong, and there might be something I can learn, I think for all of us, just starting there, which is why I think the Gazette having a podcast is just huge, because people that listen to the show, you're going to hear all these diverse opinions and these diverse places where people come from. And man, that's a powerful thing. It's really cool when you hear somebody that thinks differently than you, but makes a bunch of sense.
Well, that's one of the main things we want to do here is convene conversations, not just broadcast out.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I was so glad to see you doing it.
We're well on our way. So tell me about the book. I was kind of surprised that you haven't done one by now.
Oh, I never wanted to write a book. I interview these people, and it seems like such hard work. And I look at all the writing that you do, and I think, man, that's for somebody else. I'll just talk on a microphone. But I have to say, it was really fun to write. I had written one book, so to some degree, I had written one. I wrote over 10 years. It took forever. It was horrible because you can totally see where I started. Mm-hmm. I was reading a book by I'm going to forget the woman's name, but she was talking about how she got this book deal. And she procrastinated for 2 years. And I'm like, well, I procrastinated for a decade. She procrastinated for 2 years, and now she's working at this agency where she's around good writers all the time. I mean, she was around them. And I thought to myself, Karl, I'm like, I interview great authors all the time. What if I could find somebody that had a similar sense of humor that I have, a similar outlook, and we could write it together, and it'd be a lot more fun. So I reached out to a friend of mine, Emily Guy Birkin, who has 5 finance books out there. Her biggest one is called The 5 Years Before You Retire, which a lot of people pick up, obviously, during the 5 years before they retire. Right. Another one called Choose Your Retirement. So she's done one on Social Security. She's done a lot of stuff, but she's never gotten to do something funny. But I've had the opportunity to be around her at conferences over a couple of drinks, and Emily is hilariously funny. And so I really wanted somebody funny because the idea for this book came, I was in this huge bookstore, and I'm out west, and I'm looking around the bookstore, and I'm kind of getting lost, and I make my way to the kids section, and I see the Hardy Boys Detective Manual. And I don't know, are you familiar with the Hardy Boys Detective Manual?
No, I remember the book series. But
Yeah.
not that.
They had not just the book series, but this manual where they talk about how to do fingerprinting, how to tail the bad guy.
Oh, wow.
It was written with the help of a real life retired FBI agent. And so it went through all of this cool stuff. And my brother, I was in 4th grade, my brother's in 2nd grade. We carried this around all the time. And one summer we just dog-eared the heck out of it.
Right.
And I thought about this, and I thought, especially for our brand, for the Stacking Benjamins brand, this is the campiness that I would love in a money manual. Like if adults would carry around a book that's like that, that would be great. Right. So that was the germ of it. I come home, and my mom has come over, and she's left on my kitchen table this box of stuff. Now, I had just turned 50. And my mom's finally letting me have my crap from when I was 12, right? So I've got the little league picture of little Joey batting and the whole team and my 6th place bowling trophy from my dad and I doing this bowling night together. And where, by the way, one of the legs are broken off. I finally am trusted with that. But in that book is the Wolf Guide, the Cub Scout Wolf Guide.
Oh, wow.
And I open it up, and at the top of the Wolf Guide, it has items you'll need, right? Of every achievement has items you will need to get this badge, and then all the things you need to do. And then there's a place you check off all the boxes that you did the stuff, and there's a spot for your mom to sign it at the bottom.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, how cool if we could make that, but for money. So the book is called Stacked. It's your super serious guide to modern money management, and it is like the Cub Scout Wolf Guide meets the Hardy Boys Detective Manual, where you open it up, we tell you exactly what you're going to need to get this done, and then we explain what the issues are, and at the bottom you check the boxes and have your mom sign it at the end. And at the end of the book we even have a certificate that's signed by us and my mom that says that you did everything. So
great.
Congratulations. It was a lot of fun to write. We start off with stacking your first Benjamin, right? Getting from 0 to just on your feet. So we go over credit. We go over the basics of money. We go over how to get a budget, how to have good money conversations. And then we move into stacking, making a stack of Benjamins, and then protecting your stack of Benjamins, and then building Benjamins on top of your Benjamins. So those are the 4 super serious parts of the book.
And lots of laughs along the way, I assume.
A few. What's funny is that there's a lot of jokes that people, our early readers, have commented on that are jokes that aren't very appropriate. And there's not a lot of them, by the way, but there are a few. And those jokes, everybody thinks I wrote them because they sound like stuff that come out of my mouth. My co-author wrote all of them. Right. And I know that when the book comes out, everybody's going to go, well, if you didn't have those jokes, and I'm going to go, well, it's all Emily's fault. So
let's talk Texarkana. How'd you get here, and what makes it feel like home for you?
Oh, well, what's funny is that we had to leave for a couple of years, and there is the family that you're born to and the family that you choose. And coming back was fantastic because when we had an opportunity to come back, it was like pressing the easy button, man. And it is the family that we chose. So when we first got here, my wife was working. She is at Colum & Carney, and works obviously in the medical field. And the practice she was working in Michigan was blown up. Things weren't going very well. And she's wondering what's going on, but it's clear that things are not going well. Well, it turns out after we left, we found out that there was somebody there that was embezzling money from the practice. Wow. But it clearly was going under. So she had recruiters reach out to her from around the country. And I remember we were at a concert by one of my favorite bands, the Bodines, and we walked outside, and Cheryl goes, should I start paying attention to these recruiters? Because things aren't going well here in Michigan. And I said, it doesn't hurt to talk. And it never does, right? I tell people that all the time in finance, just talk. So so she starts accepting these calls, and she gets this call. And you're wondering what this has to do with Texarkana. I'll get there. She says, she answers the phone one day, and this guy's talking about Denver. No, wait a minute. She got a flyer that said Denver Access. And we have relatives in Denver. One of her relatives works for Ski Magazine, lives in an A-frame house near Red Rocks. When the sun goes down, you look out over the prairie and you can see all the lights from their house. It is amazing. And so Cheryl's like, that Denver? Yeah, sign me up. So let's do that. So she sets up a time to talk to this recruiter. The very first thing the recruiter says is, I told these doctors not to put Denver on it because it's really Grand Platte, Nebraska. So it's like a few hours away, but the doctors want to sell the nearest big city that they have. And he goes, but if you like Nebraska, you should come. And if you don't, you shouldn't. She's like, well, I don't know Nebraska, so I don't not like it, but no. And he said, okay, well, tell me about you. And she starts talking to the guy. And he said, well, I think it sounds like you'd like a small to mid-size town, city, you know. We like some amenities, but we also like a smaller city feel of where we live. So he sent us to two places, flew us down to Texas and flew us to Weatherford and on the other side of Fort Worth and to Texarkana. And so we drove from Weatherford to Texarkana. And I remember we had to look up Texarkana on the map. Oh, wow. I had no idea. And by the way, I'm from Kalamazoo. And now my friends joke that I've been in Kalamazoo and Texarkana. If I get Walla Walla, like I've hit them all. But I just knew the REM song, Texarkana. And so we get here. And I don't know, we just immediately loved it. And my kids were between middle school and high school and went to Texas High and had a great 4 years at Texas High. And then
when was this, by the way?
This was 2009 that we got here initially. And my son ended up at University of Texas, and my daughter ran for the University of Arkansas. So wow. Yeah, which, by the way, everybody told us, and I know now, that you can tell we're not originally from here because those aren't two schools that your twins go to. Like, you do not send one to Texas and one to Arkansas. Who are you? Where are you from? Yeah.
Well, you're from Texarkana.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So community involvement is really important to you, obviously. How does that fit in with the rest of what you do?
It's funny. It doesn't fit in with what I do, which is why it's so important to me, because working all day in my house, I would just go crazy. And every time I go out in the community, people are I can't get out of Albertsons without talking to the woman who's bagging my groceries, you know. It's so friendly. So when my kids were in high school, I got really frustrated that there's no sidewalks out in front of Texas High. Like, what is that all about? We have crossing guards, but there's no sidewalk. Right. And so I found out, though, there's a whole group of us that kind of feel that way and join Partnership for the Pathway, a great local organization helping build some of these awesome walking trails around town and giving kids on the Arkansas side have a safe route to school, you know, between the high school and the middle school and the elementary up at the top of the trail. And I don't know, I absolutely love that. And I just started working with the museum system, but I'll tell everybody, get involved. You know?
Well, that's why I was going to ask you, how could people get involved with Partnership if they wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. Just go to our Facebook page, put in Partnership for the Pathway, and send us a note. Say, hey, I'd love to start coming to your meetings. It's once a month. We had a guy on, the interview hasn't actually aired yet. His name's Chris Field, and he's a professor down at A&M. And he said, you know, people think, if you say, hey, Karl, how about you give 100 hours to a charitable organization this year? Like, you kidding? How much vacation time you want me to take? Right. And I can't spend it all on somebody else. He breaks this down. His new book's called $1 Billion Hours of Good. He breaks it down to 14-minute increments. The reason he uses 14 minutes is because that's 1% of your day. And he's like, if you take 14 minutes a day, that ends up being 100 hours. And all of us have 14 minutes we can spare in a day for an organization. And it's much better than throwing $50 at something or, you know, $10 in the whatever charities bucket, you know. Yeah. Just getting involved, whether it's Partnership or something else, because the ROI, and he spent a long time with me talking about this, the return on investment to me has been phenomenal. just the people I've gotten to meet, the excitement of being a part of the community, about helping other people get ahead. Like there is no, I do a podcast about money and about having more money. There is no amount of money that's better than being involved and being a part of something that is as precious to us as, the area around us.
So what are you guys up to lately? And the Run the Line half marathon is your main fundraiser.
Yeah.
It got canceled last year.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a race in 2022?
Great news. There will be. We thought about having a race in 2021, late race, like Little Rock rescheduled the marathon for this fall. We're usually 2 weeks before the marathon. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that done. But we are coming back. It's still going to be, I believe it's the week of right after Valentine's Day. That we'll have it. I don't have the exact date, but the run's going to be the same. We always need a bunch of volunteers for the race. We raise about $60,000 for walking trails. That sounds like a lot of money. $60,000 will build about 400 yards of trail. So that is just a little tiny bit when it comes to building. But man, if we can just keep doing that, hey, it gets. The whole Bringle Lake system right now is so beautiful. Up to Pinson Elementary, up on the Arkansas side, the beautiful trail that goes behind the elementary school there is Knicks Creek Trail is my favorite trail. People don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Just go to All Trails or Trail Link. Those are a couple good free apps on your phone where you can look up local trails. Fun places to walk. People are friendly and they. I see the same people out there all the time. There's a guy who has a cat with a leash that I've seen for the last decade, and I don't know his name, but he is so friendly. And we were gone, as I mentioned, for just a couple of years, and I was so happy. The first weekend we were back, I'm running down the trail with Cheryl, my wife, and there he is.
A lot of that money you guys raise goes toward matching funds for grants.
That's right.
Correct. So there's sort of a multiplier effect there.
Absolutely, yeah. And now it's almost exclusively that for grants, and it's partly too because and we also match a lot of local work that happens. Mm-hmm. We found, and this is like anything that if you pay for 100% of it yourself, nobody else does anything, right? But if we will match what you do. In one way, you start to do things, but in the other thing, then you see the ROI that I was talking about a second ago. And we found that these partnerships that we made have been so valuable as we mobilize more and more people because then they see how fun it is helping out in the community. So absolutely.
Yeah, it's always a fun day downtown, whether you're directly involved or not. So I'm looking forward to it next year. And like you said, if people want to volunteer, I'm sure you're happy to sign them up.
We do not turn people away, man. We do not turn people away.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that. Thanks so much for coming in and doing this. Where can people find the Stacking Benjamin Show? Where can they pre-order your book?
Well, because it was your first one, I really want to make you sweat, and I didn't do that, so I'm a little upset by that. But you can find the Stacking Benjamin Show wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're not sure how podcasts work, just if you've got a phone with a screen on it, you will find that it probably has a podcast player. You just put in Stacking Benjamins and hit the follow button, and you will find out when we have new episodes. But it's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's a very light show about money. We have some serious conversations, but different than, as I mentioned, a Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman. We try to do deep conversations in a light way. And the book pre-orders are so important to any author because most of the top lists, the Amazon bestseller list, the Wall Street Journal bestseller list for a book like ours, the New York Times bestseller, oh my goodness, if we made that one, the New York Times bestseller list, all those are based on pre-orders for the most part. So if you just want to give a great book to somebody that wants to have some laughs and get into money, it's stackingbenjamins.com/stacked, STACKED, and that will lead you to all the different places you can buy it. You could probably even go down to, I bet you could even go down to Books A Million here and say, I want to pre-order Stacked. And they'll say, what is that? And you'll say, it's this awesome book from this dude here in town.
And it'll be out around the holidays, correct?
It will, December 28th. And we've already gotten nothing, I don't think I'm allowed to say where I'm going to be yet. But I've been told that there are some places in New York City where I will be on. Not as big as being on the Texarkana Gazette podcast,
Right.
but I've been told that there are some TV shows in New York that already want us, which is just flippin' thrilling.
Well,
Unbelievable.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be looking for it. Thanks again for being here. And we'll talk to you again sometime down the road.
Thanks for having me. And everybody, if you see me on the trail, just wave.
All right. Take care. On the Line is a Texarkana Gazette podcast recorded in our newsroom Star Bear Studio, right here in downtown Texarkana, USA. The show was written, produced, and edited by Karl Richter. News stories are based on Gazette staff reports. Texarkana Gazette podcasts are made possible in part by a grant from the Google News Initiative Journalism Emergency Relief Fund. I'll see you next week on The Line.